Verbal communication and the differences that exist between the behaviors of men and of women. Um, Nonverbal communication is the process of stimulating meaning in the mind of others via nonverbal messages. Now that could be anything from the tone of your voice to the pace of your voice to the eye movements that you're making, or even your arms waving up and down, waves, anything like that. Anything that has to do with conveying a message, rather it be your emotion or your anything, your emotions, your intentions. It even could mean just, it could indicate anything. That's nonverbal communication. So the first thing about men and women that we'll probably want to look at is, why are men and women different? The first reason of three is very simple. The first one is genetics. Men have broader shoulders generally, and women have wider waistlines, narrower shoulders. And basically, so this, women have more of a V shape, more of an hourglass shape, whereas men have a V shape. And this definitely affects body posture and a lot of other things without any other differences between men and women being present. So that's the genetic aspect. The second of the three aspects is modeling. Now, basically, when you think about it, as you grow up, you look at men and women around you that you look up to, such as your parents or Britney Spears or any other pop culture influences, and you try to emulate things that you like about them and show it in your own body language and whatnot. So, for example, if I, as a man, enjoyed watching Vin Diesel, I might act like and do things that Vin Diesel does with his hands and voice and whatnot without even noticing it. It's subconscious. So that's one major way that people begin to, as men and women, act differently with regard to nonverbal communication. The third is simple reinforcement and conditioning. B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning. If I go out into public as a man wearing a short skirt, I'm probably going to be yelled at, chided, made fun of. That's going to discourage me from ever wanting to go out into public wearing a short skirt. Whereas if a woman does the same thing, she's going to be whistled at, cheered on, and she's going to be encouraged to do the same. And that's definitely going to be, like it or not, wearing a short skirt is going to be putting off a message to everybody who sees it. That's nonverbal communication. So, why do these three things lead to differences between men and women in nonverbal communication? Well, it's basically based on cultural expectations. Now, that's not all of it, of course. As I said, genetics has some effect and whatnot, but for the most part, it's cultural expectation which forms and shapes people, men and women, to be different from one another, especially with regard to nonverbal communication. So, when it comes to what society expects in general, and this basically ignores culture, women are more nurturing and caring. And that's just a fact for the most part of most cultures. Now, there's probably some explanation, some exclusion to that rule, but for the most part, that's the expectation, and that's what how culture has shaped people. And while at the same time men are more problem oriented. I look at you, I say, here's a problem, let's fix it. Whereas a woman might say, I feel this is going wrong, this is bad, let's talk about why, why we feel that way, and then we can figure it out. Neither approach is right or wrong, but it's just a fact of just the genetics and hormones and whatnot and as I said, cultural expectations that exist. So, moving on from that, now that I've explained primarily why men and women are different, let's look at some of the more important and noteworthy reasons and ways that men and women are different with regard to nonverbal communication. So, how are they different? Well, I've already gone over a few examples, but in general, let's start with the basics. In general, women take up less space, and that's not to say that women are smaller, even though they generally are. It's women are more tight and compact, and they try to not take up space. Whereas men, on the other hand, I think the example in the book was men will take up an entire seat, like, this is my seat, I'm relaxed, let's spread out, and whereas women are trying to hide in their seat and avoid being in somebody's way. And that's a sad fact, because that basically says that women are undervalued and don't value themselves to take up that much space. To my mind, that's what it means. And it's sad that our society has led women to expect and accept that. But that, if you think about it, that's generally a reality of how we operate, and that's definitely a huge nonverbal communication. Hey, I'm not worth taking up this much space. Don't bother me, Whereas men are, yeah, come look at me, I don't care. It's just a fact of our reality in this society, and it is what it is. It's not to say it shouldn't be changed, but when you think of another way, think of a woman who is unattractive and how that affects her in her day-to-day life versus a guy who's unattractive. The woman is not going to receive the same type of benefits that an attractive woman would receive. And that's absolutely wrong. Whereas, on the other hand, men have more freedom. I might not be the most attractive guy, but that doesn't really exclude me from anything. Men expect women to be extremely, extremely unrealistically good looking, or they do not receive the same benefits from men, and women, by and large, do the same thing to each other, and it's absolutely wrong. But it's a fact. It's in our society become a generally accepted fact, and time has been unable to change these things through the years. So, on another side of the same coin, though, attractiveness actually impedes women's advancement in management type roles. So, if you're a woman and you're considered attractive, then you might be passed up for a promotion, and this might be because men don't want to promote and have women on equal or higher level than them if they find them attractive. And once again, that's wrong. Whereas a guy who's attractive has no loss of advancement opportunity based on his attractiveness. And as I said, that's probably better. It's better that you don't have that impediment just because of the way you look. It should be based on how you perform and what you're able to do and how well you do it. But why do women have that impediment? That's another huge difference in nonverbal communication. Whereas a woman's attractiveness says, don't promote me, and a man's has no effect. It's a huge cultural just a huge cultural difference in nonverbal communication. Another huge difference is smiles. Even young children, as research has shown, young children see a man smile and they understand that that guy is happy, and they don't question that. They immediately understand what's going on and they react accordingly. Whereas younger children, the same younger children, when a woman smiles, have almost no difference. And this is largely because women are expected to smile and concede and give in and whatnot, even if they're not wanting to. The smile might not mean that they're actually happy. Whereas men, when men smile, it almost always it is a true smile of happiness. And that's another sad thing. It's just a sad state, you know? And all in all, that ties it all together. These negative effects from differences in nonverbal communication between men and women are large and they're real. And they all come from cultural expectations and what people expect from men and women and how they're different. And it definitely affects the way that men and women are treated differently.